Hello, everyone, and welcome to Path of Exile. We're going to do a quick primer on this game, so people understand at least a little bit about it. And when I put a little on the channel here, you at least understand, you can have a vague idea what's going on. This is a actional role playing game by Grinding Gear Games. It's completely free. You can get it off of Steam. You can get it off of Grinding Gear Games. Um, it's a free to play game, but it is a full game. It's not like you don't only get part of it, or there's a lot of free to play aspects on it. There really is not much of anything. If you look at the shop is mostly like pets and weapon effects and stuff like that. Changing your effects of your character, all this kind of neat stuff that has nothing to do with the gameplay. You have the full game front to back, hundreds of hours of experience without spending a single penny. So it's definitely great value. The thing is, it's also probably the deepest action RPG out there right now. And a lot of people think of it as the spiritual successor to Diablo 2. There's a lot of things borrowed from that, but there's a lot of things that it's definitely its own. So let's kind of get right into it. First thing, you have your health. You have this thing called an energy shield, and you have your mana. You have your potions. Potions don't work off of you have like a lot of them. You just as you use one, you use one. The way it works is you use up charges every time you use it, and then as you kill monsters, depending on what type of monsters you kill, you fill them back up. And there's a ton of different kind of pop types. There's your life flasks, which are basically HP pots. There's your mana flasks, which are mana pots. And then there's also the special utility pots. Here I have Quicksilver Flask, which basically increase your movement speed for a 5-second period. There's a whole bunch of other flasks, but we're not going to get too deeply into that. Over here you have your hotbar of your skills. Skills are not necessarily derived from your class. Your skills are derived simply from gems. Gems drop throughout the game. They also you can get them from certain quests. You could also get them from vendors after you complete certain quests. They carry over from character to character through your stash. Your stash is goes for each character within the same league. I'll get into that in a minute. So if I were to create a new character, they'll have access to this entire stash. And you can get additional. I only have 4 tabs here, but you can get a whole bunch of additional tabs by purchasing them in the shop. But you get 4 to start, and there's plenty of space. But anyway, so gems. Actually, I gotta see. These are all gems. These are all skills. These are all different skills. Gems, the way they work is you have slots within armor pieces. It would be typically your helmet, your main weapon, your offhand, gloves, boots, chest. There is sometimes where you'll see a gem slot here in the neck piece. I think that's specific to the Talisman League, but I'll get into that. And the way gems work is you have so many sockets per piece. Usually your chest can have up to 5. A two-handed weapon can have up to 6. A one-handed weapon can have up to 3. I believe this could also have up to 3. Your offhand and your gloves and boots can have up to 4. You'll notice in some of these there's a link between. This allows you to link skills together. Now, linking skills together usually means using an active skill along with a support skill that does something a little bit different. Like, for instance, in this particular character, I have a skill called Flame Totem. Flame Totem I have connected with added lightning damage, so I'll have additional damage when I ever put down my Flame Totem. I also have a faster casting, so I can get that totem down faster. So that's an example. So you can kind of tune your skills the way you want it. There are a bunch of different support gems, a bunch of different active skill gems. There are also gems that provide auras. There's gems that you can use to summon monsters. It's very crazy how much variance they have. Gems come in 3 different forms. They come in red, green, and blue, which represents strength, dex, and intelligence, which also segues nicely into your stats Your stats are along those three. We'll get a little bit more in that, but that's how they're tied. Let me go back here in the stash. So as you play the game, you will level up your skills. As long as you have a skill gem equipped, it will gain experience as you gain experience. Once it hits a certain threshold, it will level up. As you see, like here, I have a level 6 lightning damage at a lightning damage gem. It will increase the requirement in order to be able to use that gem. So in this case, it needs to be I need to be level 25 and have at least 43% int, 43 int in order to use it. And that's how that works. Some gems like this one, the Flame Totem, has a strength and intelligence requirement. Since it's red, it will tend to have a higher strength requirement than your int requirement. Your blue ones will have a higher int requirement, and your green ones have a higher dex requirement. Anyways, without getting too much further down the rabbit hole in this, because this is quite the big rabbit hole. Usually builds come out of two different things. Builds come from which skill gems you are using. Now there is classes, and I use classes term lightly. The only thing your class does really is kind of lean you toward a particular way, but every class can use every skill gem. Doesn't matter. So even though I'm playing a witch, I can use which is tend to be thought of as a pure caster class. I can use red gems, no big deal. Gear tends to have when it drops in the game, will have different color slots. Those slots represent which color gem you can put in them, and of course your links will show you which things you can link up here. Like for instance, I have a nice 4-link helmet here where I can put in 4 skills and link them together to do stuff. So that's skills. The other thing that's important about your character, actually before we get into that, let's go into the character screen. Your character has life, mana, energy shield. Energy shield you get off of gear. The 3 main defenses in this game is armor. And these are flat. These are just like normal defenses. There's armor, which will change your physical resistance. There's I don't think I have any on here. No. Evasion, which is your basically will figure out your chance to dodge. You dodge an attack, you will dodge all of the damage. And then you have energy shield, which basically adds like a second layer of hit points. The way energy shield works is it regens on its own. So after a certain amount of time, I don't know the time frame. I think it's probably on here though. Energy recharge per second. Does it say when it recharges? No. So I don't remember the amount of time before it starts recharging on its own. But it will recharge on its own as long as you haven't been taking damage. It'll just fill right back up on its own. You don't have to use a pot or anything else. There are actual builds that use just energy shield as your main source of your hit points instead of your hit points. Again, we won't go too far down that rabbit hole. But so those are the 3 main types of armor. There's also resistances, fire, cold, and lightning, and chaos. You would mainly want to try to get these maximized. You'll get that through your gear. Maximizes at 75%. And at each difficulty level, it will be reduced. I'll get the difficulty levels in a minute. There's so many other stats to go through, but the other main stats to know about your character is your strength, intelligence, and dex. Strength will increase your life while also increasing your melee physical damage. Intelligence will increase your mana while also increasing a percent of your energy shield that you have on your character. And dexterity will increase your accuracy while also increasing your evasion percentage. That's what you need to know about those. Now, the other very, very big thing about your character is this. Now, let me zoom all the way out. These are your skill points. Every time you level, you will get a skill point in which you can place in the passive tree. These are all passive. None of these are active abilities. These are abilities that will make your character stronger and do other things. It looks very intimidating, and point in fact, it actually very much is. The things to know about the way this works is here, these different points I'm pointing out here, these are where each class starts. And of course, the center we have the Scion. The Scion's class is not a class you get right off the bat, you have to unlock her. Basically, you'll find her in Act 4 of the going through normal mode the first time. You can once you find her, you're able to use her as a class. But anyways, getting back to it, depending on which class you choose, you will start at a different location within the tree. Everybody has the access to the same exact tree. It's just the position that you start is different. But you are only, as far as your class is concerned, you are only stopped by doing anything by how far it is for you to be able to get to the things that you want. So as long as you get enough skill points, you can pretty much do whatever you want on this tree. For example, I am a witch. This upper area here is considered kind of like where all the like main intelligence passives are. Things which will raise your intelligence, your spell damage, your spell how quick you cast spells, things like that. As you make all your way over this way down here is considered like the strength area. This is where the marauder lives. This is where the marauder starts. This is considered like pure strength area. And then over here you have the ranger, considered pure dex area, ranged bow attacks and stuff like that. In between, there's like these hybrid classes. You got the Templar, which is considered more strength intelligence. You have the Duelist, which is considered more strength and dex. And then the Shadow, which is considered a combination of dex and intelligence. And Scion is considered pretty much everything. But it starts here in the center. So anyways, as you kind of make your way down through the tree this direction, you start getting kind of more hybrid strength and intelligence stuff, and by the time you get over here, it's like pure strength stuff. Now, that doesn't mean you can't find some dex nodes here. There's some green nodes. Green kind of always represents dex, and this is considered kind of like a dex-based node, where it'll increase your accuracy rating, even though it's found on the strength, kind of the strength quarter, or third, whatever you want to call it. So that's kind of the general layout of the skill tree. But the things that are important are really these kind of, you see these nodes are a little bit bigger than the other ones. It's because they provide bigger bonuses. And they usually provide bonuses which will start directing your character in a certain way. The character I'm playing right now is going to eventually be a dual totem, fire totem build. Because I'm using Fire Totem as my main source of damage, I want to find nodes that increase on totems, and so this is one of the reasons I took Shamanistic Fury, which increases totem damage and your placement speed. So if I want to get this node, I kind of have to make my way up through here and get to here. But you'll find these bigger nodes do bigger things than these smaller ones. Usually the smaller ones like this just usually add to your intelligence, dex, and strength. And then things like this, which add to like spell damage, but it's usually like, or cast speed, very minor upgrades. It's these little bit larger nodes here that add a whole heck of a lot more. I picked up Elementalist, adds to your chance to free shock and ignite, adds to elemental damage and elemental resistances. So, a very good thing to have if you want to build your resistance. Now, these are other things called keystones. Keystones really change a character completely. Will actually break certain rules of the game and change how your character performs as a whole. The one I'm going to for this particular character, actually going for two specific ones. The first one being Ancestral Bond. You cannot deal damage with skills yourself. Means if I put a skill that normally deals damage, like is an attack considered an attack skill, I can't use it. It won't let me get damage from it. But in response, I will be able to summon up an additional totem. Normally, you can only ever have one totem up at a time. So, since we're doing the dual totem build, obviously this is very important. Another node that I'm going for this particular character, you can find way down here, another keystone, called Blood Magic. Removes all mana, spend life instead of mana for skills. So instead of using mana, I'm using my life bar. I don't even have a mana bar. So, it, again, completely changes how you play your character. Another one I used for a different character that was playing before this one, Resolute Technique. Your hits can never be evaded, but you can never critical strike again. Very good for two-handed weapon builds, where getting evaded is a huge problem, and there is accuracy in this game. So because there's accuracy in this game, when you have a two-handed item, And accuracy is usually found in the dex. And two-handed damage, you're usually probably going to use strength for it. You have a lot of cross stats that you have to worry about, so the min-max on that's not very good. But if you take a Resolute Technique, you no longer have to worry about accuracy. You also no longer have to worry about critical strike. Those are two stats you can find in gear you can completely ignore, so you can help min-max your gear a little bit better. You know, these are things that just completely change character. One other big one, trying to find it. It's changed locations on me. What is this? Like Zealot's Oath. Life regeneration applies to energy shield to start life. There's another keystone, which CI, Chaos Inoculation. Maximum life becomes 1. You have 1 HP, but you're completely immune to chaos damage. Chaos damage is like poison damage, so one that's the hardest to get resist for, but it can really wreck you. This makes you completely immune to it. But what it means for your character, since you only have 1 hit point, you're going to have to get all your life from energy shield. So that makes a great combination with that, to be able to regen your energy shield off of that instead of life, which you only have 1 hit point off. So anyways, we kind of went on and on about that, but keystones really, really change what your character can do and what you can expect out of your character. So again, like I could choose Witch, and I can go over here to Chaos Inoculation, and that be that part of my deal. I could choose to go crazy with two-handed weapons with a Witch, and just come down here and grab all this stuff, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So really, your class does not dictate what build you have, but it will dictate where you start, how you level, how you get started with your build, and so on and so forth. It's very, very intimidating. I suggest that this is the first few times playing the game, I would go online, go look up some builds, try to figure out, and just copy a build. Don't worry about trying to figure this out, on the fly. You're not going to. It's very, very deep, very, very hard to figure all this stuff out if you really don't know all the mechanics involved. Leave it up to the scientists to take care of that. You just go ahead and follow a build. But, there are so many builds because of how many skills you have, how many passives you can get into, so on and so forth. It really makes a big difference. It really helps. There's just a ton of different ways you can go with the game. And also, depending on what game type you're playing, will also dictate what's a good build and what's not a good build. And what I mean by that, coming out here now. So, there are multiple different leagues when you play this game. Let me back out a little bit since we kind of segued into that. Let's go to character selection here. So let's go ahead and create a new game. So right now these are the challenge leagues that are available. So you have your standard mode. It's your standard game type mode. You just play. If you die, you come back, blah, blah, blah. You can also change it into a hardcore character. Very standard, doesn't have any extra rule sets or anything else. But this challenge league that's up right now is called Talisman. And let me just read off what it says here. Ancient talismans have possessed monsters throughout Rayclast. Slay these monsters to claim the talismans for yourself. And what that means is there are some monsters that roam around that have a talisman attached to them. It makes them do like some different types of abilities and stuff like that. It makes it turn into a kind of like a champion type monster. But when you kill them, it'll drop a talisman. Now, other enemies in that area can pick up that talisman and all of a sudden gain those abilities too. And then you have to kill that person to drop the talisman. So it's important, at least in the original kind of concept for it, that you kill the guy with the talisman, pick up the talisman. Now, talisman is a neck piece, and let me go back into the game because I'm actually playing, the character I'm playing is in hardcore talisman. Hardcore, again, meaning that you can't die. If you die, that's it. I'm actually wearing a talisman right now that I kind of pseudo crafted. When you drop a talisman off a monster, it becomes tier 1. See, that says talisman tier at the top there. There's these stone pillars or some stone. I don't remember the name of it, but it has a space for you to put 5 of them. If you put them from the same tier and they have a different base, so what I mean by a different base is. See how this is called Ashgale Talisman. This is a Deep One Talisman. This one's a Talisman of, Break Rib Talisman. You have a different type. They're easily identified because they look different. There's many different types. I actually have 6 different ones here. But if you put 5 different ones in there on the same level, it'll create a bunch of monsters. A bunch of monsters will spawn. One would be another Talisman monster that will have a tier 2 on it. And then, I haven't done this yet myself, but I assume if you have 5 tier 2s, you can get a tier 3 that way, so Another thing about talismans is they're corrupted, meaning that you can't alter them in any way, which kind of segues me into the next. Yes, someone just traded on me by accident. Which segues me into the next thing. One thing you will notice: there is no gold in this game. There is no in-game money. Money is done via these different orbs and bits and pieces. The short for currency. They do different things. For instance, this alteration orb will reforge a magic item with new random properties, meaning that I could take a magic item. Magic item is a blue item. I might not actually be wearing any. Like that's normal. These haven't even been increased. It looks like I don't have one on me right now, but it's a blue item. Blue item's a magic item. I don't like the roll of that magic item. I'm going to re-roll it. Or I can do augmentation. I can add a new random property to a magic item. I can increase my quality of armor. Let's see if I have. Okay, so here this has got a quality percentage on it. Items can drop superior, meaning they have a quality on it, which means it increases the stats that you normally find on it. You can increase your stats that way, both for armor and for weapons. You increase the quality of your flasks. As you can see, flasks can also be magical. Oh, these are example of magical items. These are called magical flasks that do extra things besides giving you, in this case, life back. You can change the color of the sockets that you have. You can add. You see if you can get a different number of sockets on your item. You can change the links on your item to see if you can get more links. A whole bunch of stuff. The bigger currencies are things like Chaos Orbs, which can reforge a rare item into new random properties, and a Regal item, which you can upgrade a magic item into a rare item. These tend to be, the Chaos Orb and Regals tend to be your main form of currency that you're going to use to trade to people to buy items from other people. Things like Uniques. Uniques are basically specialty items. Usually they all roll the same in the sense of what stats are on them, like what things, like this limb split, for example, will always have +1 level of socketed strength gems on here, increase physical damage, add physical damage, strength, and calling strike on it. But it may have a variance of how much increased physical damage. I believe this can go to 100% physical. So it's not like the best roll as far as this unique item is concerned, but they're always relatively the same. But anyways, kind of rounding back here to Corrupted. Corrupted, you can't use any of these on that. Normally you can use it on whatever item as long as it fits whatever it's supposed to be doing. Like, I can't use a Whetstone, which increases the quality of a weapon on an armor. I mean, obviously that doesn't work. But, corrupted items, you can't do that at all. There are ways to still manipulate corrupted items, but I'm not going to really get into that. It's specific to this particular type. But that's the currency in this game. That's how you trade with other people. You can always trade items for people, but usually they're going to put a value on an item based on how many Regals or Chaos Orbs, or I think Exalts are another one, which I don't have one yet on this particular character. But that is your currency in this game. So I believe that kind of goes through all the different systems in this game. I don't want to go too much deeper down the rabbit hole because there's a lot to learn about it. Yeah, it looks like that is pretty much it. So, obviously, between all the currency, how you can alter your items and stuff like that, between the placement of skill gems and how many different kind of combinations you have between support and curses and attacks and yada yada yada, between this massive passive tree which has keystones which completely alter the way that your character can normally play, and plus these smaller ones which give very large bonuses to specific things. There's just a multitude of different ways to play this game, and like I said, extremely deep, extremely addicting, and all free. It's amazing thing they've done, and they've done well. I mean, you see some extra little things and some characters here running around. They've definitely been able to maintain this game, There's other leagues that end up coming up with different sets. I know a big thing when it first came out and during the earlier, like during early release, which would have been a couple years ago. I don't remember the actual date it came out. They had races a lot of the time too, where it's just like, okay, we're gonna do a 6-hour race, and at the end, whoever's the highest XP will win the race, and usually they'll give out some sort of some bonuses from that. Sometimes like some very special gear, sometimes currency, sometimes there was all sorts of different things. Give out titles, whatever, tons and tons of different things. I don't know how much of that they do now, but I do know that this talisman thing is a fairly new development. I think it was mid-December. I think again I don't remember the additional date, but always stuff going on in this game. And you're never going to get tired of it, especially if you want to like be one of those types that really fool around with builds and learn how to min-max them and all that stuff. And of course, playing hardcore is always great. The challenge level of this game is definitely very high. And speaking of which, I didn't kind of go through the difficulties. There's no real difficulty setting. You do it through the old kind of Diablo 2 style, where you go through the game through at one level, and then you go through the game at another level, and you go through the game at another level. The difference is called normal, cruel, and merciless. But there is also an end game after merciless, making with maps. Maps are items. Maps you can basically it's a randomly generated map with a random set of monsters and so on and so forth. But the thing about maps, too, is they can also be normal, which don't have anything on them. They can be magic, which means they'll add a couple of different things to the map. Like, for instance, there are more rare monsters. And you can only cast skills using your life. Everybody has blood magic like that. Like they had the blood magic keystone. Stuff like that. Things that will greatly alter what's going on that map. And that's the end game. And you can basically run all the way through, I think, level 99, I think is the highest level. Although it's very slow going once you get past like the 75 area, because maps usually drop, I think, in Act 4 in Merciless. I think they drop between 66 and 70, I think, somewhere around there. And then you only get the higher level maps by doing maps. And as your maps increase in level, you may get a chance to drop a higher level map and so on and so forth. And eventually you will run out of maps. But anyways, I'm kind of doing my usual ramble thing here. But so not only is there a huge amount of customization and a very deep min-maxing gameplay, but there's an end game. Then there's an end game that's randomly generated, always different. Just hundreds of different ways that your maps can roll that will completely change the experience every time you go in to do a map. So it's a very, very, very deep game. And you can play it over and over and over again. So I highly recommend it. As far as what we're going to do for this channel, we're not really going to go too much more into this game. I'll probably do some gameplay footage. In fact, I'll probably going to be playing this for a little bit after I get done kind of cutting this thing up. But so I hope you enjoy that, and I'll be enjoying kind of this look into what I feel is definitely the premier action RPG game that's out right currently. So thank you everyone for watching, and I'll catch you next time.